Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you the latest creation that just hit the workshop, the D.S.V Akvanat. Now, this vessel has been a collaboration with myself and Sheppy. I'm using the platform from the Alta Tanker, as you may recognize, but it is heavily modified and redone big time to give it all kinds of new features, all kinds of new equipment, and a whole lot of fun. So stay tuned. In this video we're going to go through a lot of the features, some of the ways to operate and use this vessel. There are a lot, but I'll do my best. Here I am standing on the main cargo deck. We're going to go through the parts of the ship and see what we cover. So, on the very front of the ship, over this staircase, we have our helicopter. Now, this is the revised helicopter, the LX-12 that I made, where you have kind of the updated systems and whatnot. And the nice thing is, you can summon the vessel to your location. As you can see, the vessel was actually off, and I press the button and here it comes to me. So that's always a nice feature, especially when you're playing by yourself. I really love this. And there it comes to a stop. So we've got the vessel in our vicinity, the helipad and all, so just nice to have kind of that functionality and the ability to kind of go airborne as well as come back to your vessel. Now, yes, it is a bit of a tight squeeze, but you can land back on that helipad. And also because of the new connector style, the H4 that I developed for my submarines and helicopters, you could actually land this helicopter on the deck of the vessel, which is nice. And you can also land it in either configuration, whether it's facing the back or facing the front of the ship. So we're going to get connected here in a second. There we have it. And we power the engines down. So that is the helicopter. Now, there are repair equipment here, and if we go back on this side, there's actually a fuel pump and a hose, so you can plug in to the helicopter and charge up your helicopter using the fuel tank, the diesel fuel tank from the actual vessel. So that's always a nice feature to have, especially if you want to fly your helicopter a lot. Now, you noticed this little dip here in the stairs. Well, on this side it doesn't exist. Here you go straight onto the deck. What is that dip? Well, it is the diver's decompression suite. Now I call it suite because it's a luxurious room that has modern conveniences, a wall of rock and a fireplace, a TV, some chairs, and it sees the moon pool, the big moon pool for the equipment, which we'll get to later. But other than this, which is the diving bell, you have diving kind of little bedroom area, divers little chambers there, and a full working kitchen. So the divers can be here to decompress. Here you can charge up your diving gear. And why you'll need that? Well, because over here is the diving bell. Now when you tap that button, you could see that you could sit yourself on the seats. Now we do have to make sure the door is closed, just because this system does operate on so right now it's actually atmospheric conditions, but if we put on one of our diving suits and make our way into the diving bell, when we release it, it's going to charge up with pressure. And that pressure is going to be matched inside the suite here. So if we disconnect the door magnet, you can see the pressure in here is rising. And then we can also drop our winch. Now this thing will slide down. And if it doesn't disconnect right away, I recommend you kind of like move around in here just to kind of get it swinging. But as you can see, we're on our way down. Now there is a shipwreck over there. We're not quite on the spot. We moved it actually with the helicopter, but that's fine. Now, one thing you'll want to do is stop the winch. You'll notice the winch length 36. We still have a long ways to go to the seafloor, so not a big problem. And that is the diving bell. Now over here on this side, you can actually transmit to the ship. Now you have your exterior lights, your spotlights, and a heater in here, so all the nice conveniences. You also can emergency surface. This is the Deep 4 diving bell, which drops the weights and lets you surface if you need to get back to the top in an emergency situation. Note that in that case your weights are lost and you won't be able to reuse the diving bell. So now that my ropes are more or less full at their bottom, I can open this door and grab the spear gun and go for a little swim. So again, we're not really close to the shipwreck, but you could see the way the diving bell works. And because it's pressurized from the vessel using the cable and the hose, it actually has unlimited air. We're not going to run out of air in this little diving bell. And because of that, we're also not going to run out of pressure. So it's going to stay pressurized and prevent the water from entering this chamber. Now to go back up, it's the same process in reverse. So you have to winch up and you'll see that it's going to start to bring in the winch length. Now as it gets closer, you will have to kind of start paying attention. Now ideally you play in first person and you don't have to kind of cheat into the third person, but you will see obviously with this system comes some drawbacks, and one of those is the bell may get stuck. We'll see how it goes now. Oh, nope, it went right in. So it's possible it gets stuck, and right now it's clamped onto the track, so we did it. We did it without any issues, but you may come across it getting stuck here on the lip of this door, depending on the waves, to be honest. And if that's the case, you will have to kind of winch up, winch down and whatnot until you are back in place. But if we reconnect the door magnet, you can see it's attached. We press this button and we're back on the vessel. So that's pretty much it here. Now, the diving bell pressure was quite high. And to be honest, the diving chamber pressure is high as well. So now you cannot open this door. I'm pressing E and Q. It does not let us open the door. And it's slowly depressurizing us. So, I mean slowly, not really slow, you just have to wait in here a little bit. But we could take off our diving gear, you could hang out in this room, you can sit and watch the other operations, and eventually this will open up once it's back to the same pressure as atmospheric conditions. Now, you could override the door and force it open as well, and you also can't open this one either, so same situation happening down there. And you could see as this got down to nearly 1, now we could open this door, and we could open this. Now we close that, and we are inside the moon pool. Now this is the main area of the ship, but we're not going to get to it just yet. We'll go back up in here, close this, turn all this stuff off, so you could see the diving bell pressure, this connected, the door. That is in essence how you use this area. Now we'll make our way back outside. You could also override it from the inside or the outside if you have to get in from an emergency. And if you go up here, you can lower the winch on the diving bell manually and raise it manually as you need as well. Now, this is something I'm very proud of. It is the universal cargo system now, the universal meaning my universe. It gives you 3 types of connectors. The ISO container, which is the blue, you can see. It has the H4, which is the yellow system, and it has the R10, which is the red. So depending on what type of thing you have on here, you can have one of those 3 things on the deck. In this case, you'll notice that it's the H4 system with the Manta 2 sub. We got firefighting gear here as well, as if you may need to fight a fire on the deck. And you can also have compressed air to add to your sub. In that case, you'll also need a hose. Now, I really shouldn't have picked this up. I'm just going to drop it. We'll pick this up, and we could fill up the compressed air on the mini sub. I recommend filling it up before any trip, just because the pressure in these tanks does drop as it kind of spreads out through the pipes. So you get that actually on both sides, so you could use whichever compressed air is closest. And over here we have a door pressurized to the moon pool. And over here we have our, well, over there's the big crane. Here we have the small jib crane that you can operate by activating this. Hopping in here, now you can actually see what it shows on the display. You could push this up, push this down, and kick out the boom. So that's nice. You can bring that in, of course, and you can slide up and down the tracks. Now that is functional and useful for if you're trying to load cargo or unload something like the Minisubs. So the Minisub you could deploy through the big moon pool, or you could just push it off the side of the vessel. But the nice thing about this is also you have those attachments. So if you are just trying to recover something or kind of take a quick look down into the water, well, look no further than that. So over here we have a cable. We could plug it into this thing and plug it into this. And now this is actually my new attachment system that I'm using, and it's actually labeled. So it says detach cable, well, of course, but it's the Magall plus camera attachment. So the input toggles the Magall and the lights, but it also has a camera, as you can see. So if we hop back into this crane, press 6, it's actually showing us what the camera there sees. And if I press space, it toggles the Magalls and the lights. Now the guy next to it is just a single Magall unit. It says here input magnet. So if we press space, it's going to toggle that just single Magall. So it's good for picking up something. For example, if you have a boat in the water that needs lifting up onto the deck, you could use this crane and do that. Now the nice thing about this crane is you could actually operate it from that seat over there, the autopilot seat. We'll get to that later, but to show you that, it'll turn it off. You actually don't have to turn it off. You could leave the thing plugged in, turned on, but you could also turn it on from up there. Now the Manta 2, I did do some refinements to it. I'm not going to fully show you how to use this Minisub. It's been out for a while, but now you'll notice that there's a power key, and then you have the Omatech similar to the Sea Banana, and you could throttle up, throttle down. It tells you where the seafloor is based on a distance sensor. So obviously now it's telling us 0, which isn't true. A depth of 4, we're actually 4 meters above, but if you're below, it's also going to read 4. Battery, you know, lights, all this stuff, and this is a recovery sub. So if you go here, you can actually operate that arm, and that arm is very useful for kind of picking up stuff and whatnot. So that's this Manta 2, just a really brief overview, a really useful sub. It actually isn't out on any ship, it's only out on the Diving Academy, but now you could have it on ship form. Now over here, to open this door, you see it's locked all the time, you can press this button, but you have to hold it, and then you can open this door. So I'm still holding E in this case, and then I press this with Q, and then it has to repressurize. So it actually isn't too good to open this door. You will lose pressure in your moon pool area, so you kind of want to avoid that a little bit. So I wouldn't recommend using this door other than in an emergency, but you could use this door. Now this is the main door to the ship. I have to remove these displays. Here you could turn on the heater, but you could see it's actually very hot already. And up here is our laboratory. So this is new and unique to this ship. No other ship has a laboratory quite like this. And up here is our bridge. Now this is, of course, where all the magic happens, and this is where you turn the thing on. I did optimize some of the systems. Mainly I put the helm roof displays all together. I added this light. I really love kind of the mood light, the desk lamp style from the train, so I probably gonna put it in some of my other vessels. I just find it so nice at nighttime, that glow. But anyways, that is what you get here on in the bridge. Again, the systems are normal. Now over here is the jib crane system. So if you activate AP, you're going to see the AP. If you activate the jib crane, you're going to see the jib crane. Now, the jib crane is always going to override the AP, so no matter what way you turn it on, it's always going to remain jib crane. So you'll have to turn it off to use the AP system. But when the jib crane is active, you could move it around the exact same way we were doing down there. I could press 6. Of course, now there's no feed. But pretty much it allows us to use the crane as you have it. Over here is the gantry crane operator, so the big gantry crane that I talked about. You could turn it on here and you can operate it. So you can see us moving around these things. It has a bunch of winches on it, and you could actually press 2 to switch the feed to the side, kind of like the container ship. Very useful. Also, it can be operated by remote, and here is where you set the frequency. So this is a useful system. You could also open that moon pool cover there. So you can see that kind of opening and closing. And we can release the cargo base from here. So I could actually release the sub here and lift it up and move it, which is good to have. Nice little system. And lastly, we have a CCTV system just like the other ships. I have added inside, I have to rename that, but that's the moon pool. And as previously, you could project it to this screen. Normally that screen is a map, but if you press this button, you actually get the camera. So you could, it's good to see if you're traveling in really heavy seas to know what your moon pool is doing and that it's not over flooding. Now the pressure inside the moon pool will build if the water starts to rise too high, therefore it's going to push the water out, of course. But that is, in essence, the main controls of the bridge here. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you here. Now if we make our way down the stairs all the way, we have an updated kind of cruise quarters, little table, our galley, over here a little desk. Of course here you have the armory. You'll need to get the code from the bulletin board right here. And as it says, stop forgetting the armory code, write it down. Then we make our way down here. The infirmary. We have the engine room, where everything's chugging along nicely. You can see if we turn on the generator, we actually end up gaining battery, which is nice, but we haven't sunk too low. And these motors are made to adapt to a higher throttle, so they actually prevent too much. They kind of serve as generators. Then on idle, they'll idle up or turn up. But here is where the new stuff begins. The moon pool airlock. Inside this room, you step in, you have to close the door, and then once this is green, it's pressurized. And we can open the airlock and step right through. Now this is going to close automatically, which is nice. Here is that unpressurized door that I talked about earlier, so this is the emergency escape, or if you need to quickly get onto the deck. But now the system has to pressurize back up, so I don't really recommend using that too often. Here we got our operations center. Now this is a very important room. In this room is pretty much where you run the show. So you can see the little moon pool down there, the divers one, and over here you can see the massive moon pool for the equipment. Here we have our ROV station, and over here we have our diving bell station. So everything is in this room to run the show. If we sit down here, we can activate the crane. It's going to turn on this, and you can see if we press overhead, then we can operate this. Now if we don't have anything selected, me moving the buttons doesn't do anything, but overhead, it's now moving the overhead crane. Gantry, it actually moves the outside gantry crane. So you could actually drop cargo down, and you can even open that door. So you can open it from here, drop something down, close the door, all that good stuff. Now this is a system I really love. These bay lights turning on sequentially like that is really aesthetic to me. So that's a cool little system, a little feature. And we got our moon pool lights, which honestly looks super cool at night, even without any other lights on in the space. So that does make it quite nice in here. And we have a moon pool spotlight, which actually illuminates straight down and kind of lights the area. Now, if we look up, you'll see a CCTV system. Now over here you could see the large pool right here. So I mean, it's the same view as what you see, but you could also see the small pool. It says spool, but small pool. The diver's quarters, diver queue. The diving bell, which this is the camera below the diving bell. Once you get divers inside it, the camera will switch between the inside view and the bottom view. But until someone's inside it, it's always the bottom view. And then back to the large pool. My system, if you're not familiar, if you press auto, it will just cycle through the system and kind of give you a couple seconds of each area. So that's nice. And over here, like I said, diving bell station. So over here, you can talk to the diving bell. This is also where the transmitted speaker comes out, so this is where they hear you. You can turn on the light on the diving bell. You can retract the winch, which is good. And you can operate the winch remotely, so you could set a remote channel and do it. Now what you can't do here is disconnect the diving bell itself, so I may look into adding that feature, because right now only the bell itself can disconnect, which kind of makes sense in a way, but at the same time it would make sense to have it working otherwise. I just didn't really want to program it in. I play by myself usually. Anyway, that's here. Over here we have the ROV station. Now currently it says the ROV is offline, but don't you fear, if you press remote ROV mode you can set a channel, and that's what you do first, but it's still offline, so you got to make your way down here into the large moon pool and activate the remote control mode. Now that the RC mode is on for the ROV, you can see it says the green light is connected. Now you can jump over here, it'll tell you the channels, so if you didn't set it to channel 1, you could set it to channel whatever. You could also remove the connectors. Now this thing is light enough that you may be able to just push it into place, but if not, then that's where my crane comes in. So with the crane, you should be able to deploy this. Now I'm going to get to this in a second, but let's just run the ROV system first. So in the crane, we got to turn on this overhead crane, and let's put it in position. Make sure to winch up, and once it's kind of getting over there, we just drag it into place. Now the one thing to keep in mind is your propellers are working because we're actually below the water line. So the thing is programmed to automatically try to push it up or force the ROV to the surface if it's below water. But because we're plugged into our system here, it shouldn't do that automatically. It'll only do that if it's not attached to a channel. There. So now that we're here, I can actually press left arrow key and it will just start to go down. Left is my oh, now I'm kind of reversing it. It may take a oh, we're still connected to the cable. That's why. That'll explain it. I guess it would be neat to disconnect this automatically rather than having to come here, but c'est la vie. I also expect to operate this with a crew, and if I do it myself, then I take the time to do it properly. So, like I said, you hold left, you see the little green icon there, and it shows kind of the downward motion. And we were giving it full throttle, so that's why I was kind of moving forward. But now, if we do that, turn on our lights, we can make our way down to the sea floor. Now, how to operate this is a bit of, I mean, not a challenge, but you definitely will want to learn how to use the ROV. It takes finesse, and because this is a big, a strong ROV, like we have a big propeller, it actually does tend to have more power. So you kind of want to go easy on the forward motion, but let's put it to the full speed now, and you can see we're making our way there to the shipwreck. Now it does have a very high sensitivity for flipping, but it does have big antennas. So the nice thing about this ROV, it actually has large antennas. So take a look, we're all the way at the shipwreck here, and we're still at 90% radio signal. Now, another cool thing about this ROV, I made it actually specifically for this build, so I could use it for my D.S.V, and we have our cam-eye mode that we could then take a look around. Of course, you are still kind of seeing the propellers and things of the ROV, but that's because the camera is kind of hidden within. If we turn cam-eye mode off, you could press thruster left and right, and that actually lets you kind of swivel around. Now everything's slow. When you're underwater like this, you definitely don't want fast motion that's gonna push the thing all over the place. So slow is steady, and steady is good when you're controlling the ROV. But there you have it. That is, in essence, how to operate the ROV system. Now to reclaim it, you'll want to bring it back to the ship. You could see here where we are in relation to the ship. So by turning the ROV this way, we're now aiming ourselves at the ship. You could reset, and then you'll note the ship is up there. So that actually does help you retrieve your ROV. You kind of know where it always is. Here we are sneaking up on the ship. Now I definitely don't want to come flying into the moon pool at full speed. So I definitely need to take it easy, but I also don't want to cause the thing to fall back. So here we are in the moon pool, and then you kind of go through the reverse process of attaching the rope and making sure the thing is secured to the gantry crane, at which point you can pick it up and put it back in its spot here. And that's all done here from this seat. So as you can see, we're kind of pushing the thing into place. Now I definitely don't recommend, well, if you turn this off, then this will lose signal and it's going to go crazy. So you're better off keeping it plugged in and just settling it into place. Now this may take some finesse because it is still kind of heavy. Another thing that I recommend is actually turning it off. When it's off, the propellers are no longer pushing it and it's no longer trying to escape you. So with the propellers off, you should have a bit better success in moving it around without it kind of hitting things. Also, that back winch location is vital for this right now, so I'd actually recommend plugging it into 2 of these side winches. So rather than the point I've plugged it into, probably here and here, and then this one can go from that winch up there to where it's currently plugged in. Now that's also why we have all these ladders. You can climb up to get access to attaching the winches to the right spot. Now it is a little crammed, a little tight in there, but I still think that overall for the size of the ship, which is still pretty small, or pretty narrow at least, that this is a good amount of functionality that we bring to the table. So with it like this, there you have it. You could simply deposit it into its cradle and off you go. Now the sea banana, that's a fun one. If you disconnect this here, you could just come back here and push the thing in, and as long as it kind of stays on its track, which it didn't this time, it should slide right into the moon pool. But if it doesn't, use the gantry crane or the overhead crane. I'll try that again. So let's disconnect this and let's try to push it forward. There we go. Now again, the gravity system kind of plays a bit of a havoc on creations like this, but eventually you will get it in. Now you do have a diving suit right back there, or of course all the ones in the chamber. But with that, now you turn this thing on and off you go. So you could aim this down. We turn on our front spotlights, our side spotlights and everything. Now the banana is very fun. I really enjoy using the sea banana because in addition to its general ease of use, it helps that as a diver, you could just stop the thing like this, turn on, its depth hold functions, and as long as those are on, you could then swim around and explore things, and your sea banana will be pretty much waiting for you nearby. It may drop a little bit, but the propellers are going to kick it back up and kind of keep it in spot. And you do have a front magall, so you could actually connect it to something and have it be waiting for you. Now we also have side spotlights, which give us a wide range of illumination, as you can see. So as you're kind of exploring the place, the sea banana will illuminate the way for you. Now again, to park it back in the ship, you kind of follow the exact same system. Now you'll notice that instantly it kind of drops back to its default. It always wants to stay perfectly flat, so if without this turned off, it'll automatically turn it on or try to stay flat, but with this turned on, you actually could use it to nicely bring yourself up or submerge down. So similar deal, we can get ourselves back into the moon pool like this. Now I turned on the magall, we actually just connected it to there, and now you can use, I think this one has a cable you have to use kind of in the center right there, and that's what you'd connect to your crane there. Then you gotta hop in, disable the magall, etc, etc, but pretty much that is how you'd go about getting this thing back on board. Now there is compressed air on both walls. So for anything you need compressed air for, you could use it there. Those suits do not have a charge up, but in this moon pool you do. Now this moon pool is what I call like the diver's moon pool. So this one is better for equipment, for deploying large equipment, but divers don't need to go through there. For divers, this spot is good enough. Now we do have a display, but nothing will turn on it unless you take a cable and connect it to one of these. Now, just like the ones on the top deck, this one has a camera, so if you turn that on, you see the camera. If you press that, you turn on the magulls. Good for recovering things. And you can see you could release them right there. Over here, all of these can be filled up, so you could charge up your diving gear. And this stretcher is quite nice too to have. So what you can do to deploy it, connect that there, connect this to that, and then once you released it, you could use this to winch it up. It'll kind of fall into place, and if not, you could kick it into place. And once it's in place, you can then lower the winch down. Now, one thing that Sheppy brought up that was awesome is what happens if you are an actual diver and you're trying to get this stretcher down to go rescue someone. Well, I did add these buttons. So if you press that, that actually is going to drop down with you, and you can kind of make your way along with it. You could even hold on to it if you want. And then, of course, when you are done, you could bring it, stop it, if you could catch it, and bring it back up likewise. So this gives you the ability to rescue divers if they find themselves in trouble. And back into that little diver moon pool there. So this is a cool system to have. And when you are done using your stretcher, how do you get it back over there? Well, there's a button and a winch right there that you use. So if you run into something like this, you will have to kind of push it around. Now that button actually is toggled currently from this itself. You have to make sure it's untoggled like that, and then you can go here and kind of push it down, push it up and whatnot. You have a handle too, so you could reposition it if you want to move the thing around like this. You could use your arrow keys, I think, to move things, but eventually it will come up. Almost. So one more time and up, there we go. So now like this, you take another cable, or I believe a rope in this case, and plug it into that rope anchor. So I think I need to put another rope in there, but with this you attach it to there and attach it to there, and then you can winch up, and you could also release this one altogether, and by winching this up it allows you to put this thing back in place. You will have to push it around, use the handle, all that good stuff, but eventually you'll get there. There we go, just to prove to you I did it. And these things can be attached in the exact same fashion. So you could use systems like that and end up with this back in place. So that is pretty much it. I know it's a long tutorial video, but this ship has a lot of features and a lot of cool systems that I'm excited to show to you. It is out on the workshop. It does have a bit of an instruction photos or kind of feature showcase, so make sure you check that out. Let me know in the comments what you think. Sheppy5 and myself are super proud of this, and we have some other diving support vessels in store based on this, but even on a new platform where it's an entirely different ship. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and see you next time. Happy Stormworksing, everyone.